So in the topic of origin of life, we will be discussing about the diversification of life and the origin of eukaryotes. So how did the life diversified can be seen in this diagram? We have seen that there are the three main domains of life. One is bacteria, another is archaea, and the third one is the eukarya. This is diagram which is showing the universal tree of life, and it is based on the molecular phylogenetic work. You can see on the left side the bacteria, right? So there are thermogales, flavobacteria, cyanobacteria, as we have discussed around 1.6 megabillion years ago. And then there is the purple bacteria, there is the gram-positive and green non-sulfur bacteria. When we come to the archaea, these are the extremophiles organisms, which are sulfolobus, sulfaticaris, and other bacteria which are methane, the chemio, doing the photosynthesis or chemosynthesis, right? And these are originally doing some methane formation as well. Some of the bacteria are living in extreme conditions, just like the halobacterium. And this bacteria was able to live in the extreme salty conditions. And if we come to the eukaryotes, there are microsporidia, trichomonads, flagellates. These are the protozoa or the protists. And there comes the ciliates, and then the final three kingdoms of life, the plants, fungi, and animals. The slime molds and ciliates are included in the protists. So this is actually the origin of life, that how the life diversified later in the later ages of the earth. And today we will be discussing about the eukaryotic characteristics. What are the eukaryotic characteristics in a living organism and how did they develop? The evidence for the development of eukaryotes from the prokaryotes, it is very, very less. We do not know much about that. And that's why it is saying that evidence about the earliest evolution of three domains is scant. Scant means very, very less. So wherever the word you comes, that means true. And karyon means the nucleus. So eukaryote is an organism which is containing true nucleus. So these are the organisms which are containing the membrane-bounded nucleus in their cells, and that nucleus contains the DNA in the form of chromosomes. The earliest, simplest forms of prokaryotes, they contain the chromosome in a circular form, and that was a single chromosome. And another thing about the eukaryotes is the cell organelles. The mitochondria, chloroplast, Golgi apparatus, these are some of the membrane-bounded organelles which are only present in the eukaryotes. These are not present in the prokaryotes. So where did these membrane-bounded organelles, including nucleus, chloroplast, mitochondria, they came into an organism, or how did they make the prokaryotic cell a eukaryotic cell? So for that, there is a theory which is called Endosymbiotic Theory. This theory was introduced by the Margulis in 1970s. He was a scientist, and he said that there at some point in our evolutionary history, one type of prokaryote engulfed or was invaded by another type of prokaryote which was very efficient in respiratory reaction or any other function that we are using it today. For example, chloroplast was a blue-green algae which was doing very good photosynthesis. The mitochondria was bacteria which was doing very excellent work of respiration. So these two species, one which is hosting, another one which is coming in, both of these work together, evolve together, and now they are living mutually in beneficial way, and that is called theory of endosymbiosis. In this diagram, we will be discussing about that what are the prokaryotes and eukaryotes look like, and what is endosymbiotic theory. So here in the A, you can see the prokaryotic cell, which is containing the circular DNA, ribosome, cell membrane, and a flagellum, and it is very, very simple organism. On the right side, you can see a cell which is containing the cell wall. It is containing endoplasmic reticulum with the ribosomes and membrane-bounded organelles, just like the nucleus. So it is and chloroplast, and it is the eukaryotic cell. So A and B are prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells respectively. In the C part of this diagram, this shows that how a prokaryotic host cell became the eukaryotic cell. So some aerobically respiring bacteria came in in the amoeboid cell with mitochondria, and it became the eukaryotic cell with the mitochondria. And later, another spirochetes, for example, these are the fiber-like bacteria which are attached to that eukaryotic cell, and that give rise to the flagellum. So at the end, you will have some plants. If it is inserted with the blue-green algae, it will become a plant cell. And if it is not inserted with the blue-green algae, it will become an animal cell. So in this slide, we have discussed that how the endosymbionts are formed. Basal eukaryotes means that the eukaryotes which were formed in very early forms of life. The oldest eukaryote is controversial. We don't know that when it was formed. The lipid biomarkers indicate that eukaryotes were around at least by 2.7 giga-annum. That means 2.7 billion years ago, first eukaryote was formed. Again, this evidence is not agreed upon by all the scientists. The oldest eukaryotic fossil may be the Grypania, a coiled spaghetti-like organism that has been reported from rock as old as 1.85 giga-annum. That means 1.85 billion years ago. There were some rocks in which these Grypania organism was living. And in the next slide, you will be seeing the diagram of the Grypania at A. So these are all the early fossil eukaryotes. You can see the new cell wall formation and some divisions, and the formation of spore, as well as the branching of the tubular filaments of the some earlier microorganisms. And all of these pictures are taken from the fossils. With the more and more advancement inside the cell became prokaryote to eukaryote. Now the next thing comes, which is the multicellularity and the development of the sexes, which are males and females. The true multicellular organism arose only among the eukaryotes. Of course, there were some prokaryotes which originally formed might have formed the multicellular organism, but mostly they live in the form of colonies. The eukaryotes are, on the other hand, which are dividing their cells, and these cells become specialized in performing certain functions, and whole bunch of cells completely make a particular organism. And multicellularity allowed plant and animals to become large. For example, the kelp. Kelp is the seaweed which can reach length of the tens of meters in size. After the multicellularity, the next logical thing was to development of the sexes, the sexual reproduction. And the sexual reproduction involved the exchange of gametes. The gametes are the sex cells, for example, which are sperms and eggs. The sperms are the male reproductive cells, while eggs are the female reproductive cells. And these are crossed between the two organisms. One is the male and one is the female. And both, when they combine, that happens the fertilization. And after the fertilization, that a new cell formed is giving rise to a new organism. Now, what is the importance of the sexual reproduction? The sexual reproduction gave rise to more variety among the organism, because during the sexual reproduction, the shuffling of the gene happens and more diversity of an organism can be present if that organism is doing the sexual reproduction. The Bangiomorpha is one of the oldest multicellular organism that was present almost 1.2 giga-annum ago. The multicellular and a member of modern group that engages in sex. So you see that this is one of those organisms which is oldest as well as the multicellular. And here you can see the diagram of the oldest multicellular eukaryote, Bangiomorpha.